News 21 released an amazing new report on the issue of gun violence in America. Specifically, they looked into gun violence as it affects kids. So buckle up for these facts because they're disturbing to say the least. So they say, quote, "For every U.S. soldier killed in Afghanistan during 11 years of war, at least 13 children were shot and killed in America." Woo! Now that's only one of the facts, but we could do a story based on that alone. Isn't that stunning? I'm going to repeat it one more time. For every U.S. soldier killed in Afghanistan during 11 years of war, at least 13 children were shot and killed in America. You think we might have a gun violence problem? They say, quote, "More than 450 kids didn't make it to kindergarten." So that's the number of very, very young kids that were killed. Another 2,700 or more were killed by a firearm before they could sit behind the wheel of a car. So there's your number of kids, I guess, below about the age of 16. Now, here it gets even more crazy. Every day, on average, 7 children were shot dead. You know, as I'm going through this, I'm trying to think about what the reaction would be in Australia if these statistics or these numbers applied there. What the reaction would be in Canada if this was the case there. What the reaction would be in Japan. Japan has some of the lowest, if not the lowest, gun violence numbers in the industrialized world, in the world, period. What would the reaction be in those places if every day on average 7 children were shot dead? I don't know what they would probably immediately do some sort of political solution, right? Australia is a good example of this. I think the year was 1996 or thereabouts. They had a mass shooting event, and they might have had one before that in their history. And then what happened? The politicians all got together and said, yeah, no, we're going to do something about this. I don't remember the specifics of what kind of gun control they did, but they did, a moderately strong, so moderate but leaning towards strong gun reform, okay? And they haven't had a single mass shooting event since. But we never learn our lesson. We're so used to it. We're so used to it when talking about gun violence in the U.S. And then finally, between 2002 and 2012, at least 28,000 children and teens 19 years old and younger were killed with guns. Now, I want you to do a little thought experiment. If this was anything else killing that many kids, what would we do? The country would be in an all-out panic. Let's say there was some sort of a cleaning product that was toxic, and we didn't realize it, and not just toxic, super toxic, to the point where 28,000 kids died in a 10-year period because of this cleaning agent just being used in the house, right? What would we do? Ban it, regulate it, get rid of the poisonous agent, crack down on the company, bring them in front of a grand jury. I mean, would have done any of a million things. Imagine if this was some sort of a new virus in America killing that many kids. Our doctors would all be scrambling. We need to find some sort of a cure. We need to find some sort of a vaccine so we can prevent it in the future. Imagine if 28,000 people died in the U.S. because Croatia invaded us. How quickly would we bomb the shit out of Croatia? And again, that's hypothetical. My Croatian buddies, love you to death. Just picked you out randomly. Imagine if, this is the biggest one, of course, imagine if it was jihadists that killed 28,000 American children from 2002 until 2012. What would we do? we would fully get rid of the Constitution and civil liberties, just like the story we just did. ISIS is causing trouble in Syria and Iraq, and Fox News hosts are saying, get rid of civil liberties. I don't care that we're getting rid of civil liberties. Okay? We would attack Iran, Iraq, Afghanistan, Pakistan, Syria, Jordan, every fucking country in between that even looks at us the wrong way. There'd be more speeches where presidents say, you're either with us or against us. Either with us or against us. Did you look at us the wrong way, Botswana? We're going to attack you, goddammit. Bangladesh? Did you say anything? If it were jihadists that killed that many people, oh my God. Red alert 24/7. The news would flip out, everybody would be on edge. But since it's gun violence and we're used to it, yawn, it doesn't even get discussed. The macro picture never gets discussed. And when it comes to shootings, I'm guilty of this just like anybody else. The bar has been set so high by Aurora and Gabby Giffords and Sandy Hook and you name it, that now if there's a shooting where 3 people get killed, right, but it was some sort of domestic dispute, barely makes the news. It's a blip in the fucking radar. Whereas if that happens in any other modern country, everybody would flip out, oh my God, national tragedy. I think it was in Iceland recently. There was a story within this year, within about a year and a half, they had their first police death in terms of, the police shooting and killing somebody else. The country was like, we need to do reform. This is unbelievable. It was their first one in the country's history. I mean, we have, I don't even know the number, but it's well above and beyond like terrorist attacks in the U.S. It's a normal thing. I mean, for fuck's sake, we had Mike Brown recently in Ferguson, and then another one a week later. It's not, I mean, the gun violence in the U.S. is just, we yawn at it completely. And also, just to show you how we're scared of the wrong boogeyman, from 2002 and onward, how many people have died in the United States of America from Muslim terrorism? Ready for this? 33. Let's review. 28,000 children from 2002 and onward, and probably more than that because that's from 2002 to 2012. 28,000 plus kids have died just from gun violence in the U.S., right? From 2002 and onward, 33 from Muslim terrorism. But if you watch the news, oh my God, the Muslims are coming! And gun violence, oh yeah, Congress voted down a watered-down background check bill, wasn't even universal, never mind an automatic weapons ban, never mind a high-capacity magazine ban. But forget about it. Congress voted it down. Move along with your life. 93% of the American public wanted a universal background check, but they didn't vote for it. Just shut the fuck up. Shut up, shut up, shut up. Move on. Move on to the next story. Look, we're not asking for that much, man. We're asking for a universal background check, okay? Make sure bipolar people, schizophrenic people, crazy people, manic people, severely depressed people don't get a gun. Former felons don't get a gun. Suspected terrorists don't get a gun. We're asking for a universal background check, ban on high-capacity magazines, ban on assault weapons, some age restrictions so we don't have like what happened the other day with a 9-year-old at a gun range, the instructor showing her how to shoot an Uzi, she shoots him in the face, he's dead. All we're asking for is moderate regulations. I mean, is it that much to ask to try to cut the 28,000 child gun deaths from 2002, to cut that in half? Is that a lot to ask? Can we please try to cut it in half? That's all. That's all. It would still, Muslim terrorism would still be a drop in the bucket compared to the deaths from that. But that's all we're asking. Would we just try to lower it a little bit? And by the way, that's not even an apples to apples comparison. If you really want to go by total number of gun deaths in America versus Muslim terrorism from 2002 and onward, it's 32,000 gun deaths on average every year in the United States of America. So, and that includes everything. Accidents, suicides, homicides, you name it, right? So 32,000 every year from 2002 until today versus 33 from Muslim terrorism. The boogeyman, it's not the Muslims. The actual boogeyman is the 300 million guns that we have just lying around, that whether or not you realize it, the reality is more guns equals more gun violence. We should at least do some vanilla, moderate tweaks around the edges and legislation and regulation so we can chip away at the obscene number of deaths.